Fellas, how are we doing on this lovely Monday? How are you guys doing?
I'm so happy to be here. I can't believe we got Clark Kent in the corner. It's
I've been called.
amazing to have
I've
him.
been called worse.
Super
I've been
amazing.
called way worse. Yeah,
Taking
I
off
feel
the
great.
suit, revealing the
Feel great.
cape. I'm glad.
Hey,
I
great
hope you guys.
weekend. Great
hope you-
weekend, Sibes. Right?
Good for you. Good enough for
Great
me and
for
my
me.
picks,
Three
but
and
Good.
one.
I
Scotty
think I
was
think I think good
4-0.
for Cy. I think Sides actually had the best weekend of all of us.
I was just going to say I'd argue that I was living the dream out in Montauk. It was my 27th birthday on Sunday. Had a nice little celebration.
Hell yeah, boy.
Enjoyed a few
27.
adult sodas.
God bless you.
I
You
wish
guys
I
were
was
chirping me for my picks while I was enjoying some Corona Lights at one of my favorite bars in the world, Montauk. There's nothing better than that.
Hey, no free advertisements on this show. They got to pay for that.
They got to pay for that.
Yo, I would do unforgivable things to be 27 again.
Agreed.
Maybe we'll go over a list of those things on another show.
Yeah, I think maybe he should stop probably having those Corona Lights before he makes his picks.
That might be better. Yeah, I'll go into it with a clear mind this week. I definitely have a little bit of a rebound week to do, but let's talk about those picks. Let's get into a recap of this week. We'll talk about our scores and our records a little bit later on when we make next week's picks. But let's talk about the games. First game on the docket, we got Atlas versus Archers. The Atlas won 14-9. What we see in this one, guys?
Yeah, I think I have Jack on. Jack told us that's a team that they circle, right? That's a rivalry that the Atlas. Even when I was there, we always thought that they used to beat the crap out of us. But I just think they were up for that game, and Jack especially knows those shooters are going to zing it, man. So he's got to be on point. He's got to be ready to go, and I thought he played phenomenal. And on the other end, it looks like I said, we talked about Grant Ament coming back. We talked about maybe too many chefs in the kitchen, right? I don't think that's necessarily going to stay that way. I just think they're going to figure out how to get back to what they did last season with him there.
Yeah, I think that I totally agree with you. In this game, because I think, look, in sports, especially podcast shows, they love to just be hyperbolic about everything, right? And freak out about every game. The Archers are good. We know they're good. Anytime you run into a team in this sport, when they're mid 60s as far as face-off percentage, and their goalie is in the high 50s save percentage, face-off win percentage, and save percentage are that high, forget it. Like, you're going to have to completely outplay them in every other aspect of the game in order to win.
And that's really tiring, because we're talking about ground ball stats there.
Yeah,
ground ball stats are the other X factor. It's really tough, dude, to do that all game, especially when the other team's getting I call it the intangibles, which is face-off, goaltending. If you have those two and you're playing decent, you're usually going to be on top, honestly.
Yeah, you have to play like absolute shit the rest of the game.
Right.
But it happens, and that's why the Atlas are as good as they are right now, because they're playing well together regardless. So on these couple of these Lizards teams, I think from 2011 to 2017, when I was on the Lizards with Drew Adams, we led the league, or he was at least in the top 2 or 3 in save percentage every one of those years, and then we led the league in face-off percentage every one of those years.
Except against Ohio, though. You know that one, but
yeah, we lost to Ohio. We got smoked by Ohio, right? Winning every faceoff and running to the sideline. And by the time I got to the sideline sides, we're on defense. What the hell is happening out there when I turn my head? But we won one championship together in the MLL, and we made the playoffs half of those years, not even every year. So that's what's incredible at the Atlas is they expect to go 60 to 70%. Now, here's the difference between them and another championship team who we'll get to in a second. When you look at the Whipsnakes, the thing stopping them from being better than the Whipsnakes is that the Whipsnakes don't need their goalie to crush it, and they haven't gone over 50% in either of their championship games. So on faceoffs, and they still win. The Atlas had one game where Trevor was out. They weren't over 50% on faceoffs, and they lost. So the question for them is, when you get that used to the dude doing his thing at the stripe, can you still win? And that's what we're waiting to see. But I mean, they played lights out, and I think the Archers are going to be just fine. But it's a young league, but they're starting to develop a little bit of this characteristic. When you're hearing the naysayers on Twitter and social media saying, oh, Archers are frauds. They're always loaded, but they can't get to the playoffs and win because they always choke. Now, what's the choking point for this team if that's the truth?
So I think that's a great point because, it's starting to be prove me territory for the Archers.
Yeah.
They've only beaten teams that are below 500. And I'm a big fan of the NHL. And you see now in this offseason, a lot of these guys, these players will get these, what I call, or the analysts call prove me contracts, right? They'll get 1 year, they'll get, whatever the minimum is at their level and their bracket.
Franchise tag. Yeah.
Exactly. And they get the 1 year deal and it says, prove me. Are you still valuable in this league? And that's what kind of the Archers label is right now. It's prove me. Like, can you beat the top teams in this league? The Atlas are sitting in second place right now. The Atlas just beat them by 5 goals and, really flexed on them. So the Archers really need to look themselves in the mirror and decide if they want to kind of compete with these upper echelon teams in this league.
Yeah.
What do you think the issue is, Scotty? Like,
so I'm going to be honest. I think it's not Marcus and Will are doing their thing. So it's not the vets. It's not that they're old. It's honestly, I think Tommy's a great midfielder. He's the best in the world. I think they need a little more help up there.
Matt Moore's been playing well.
Matt Moore's coming out of the box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But listen, here's the deal with dodging, right? They have Tommy. Tommy's not blown by anyone, but he's leaning on people and he's feeding and he's probing. That's great because he's a quarterback. But I'm saying a dynamic dodge right now, right? Like, where's that coming from? Is it Trey LeClaire? Is it Ambler? No, right? Is it who? They have a rookie. They scratched a rookie this week, right?
They didn't play D. Simone this week, who honestly did a fantastic job filling in for Ament when he was out. He can run out of the box. He can be a threat out of the box.
But who do you take out now that Grant's back? Who do you take out to put him in? That's the funny thing about these 19 roster spots. You have 2 goalies and a faceoff guy every game. So you have 3 roster spots. You have 16 to play with. And it depends on where you see your strengths and weaknesses. Now, Nat St. Laurent, he got, pretty creative when he started putting Perk out on that D mid spot to create transition. And it really paid off. Not everyone's built that way. Because I'm sure a lot of coaches would love to do that, but they're like, man, I'm gonna put that dude on defense.
Right.
Get out of your mind.
Right.
So, that's what I'm asking. Is it a defensive communication issue? Now, look, Gitz had a really rough game. Okay.
And that happened.
What was his? But it happens. That's what I'm saying. Every faceoff guy. I mean, look at Ignacio. A week ago, he was the GOAT. And now, he plays against the actual GOAT and has a rough day. And he'll bounce back. So, that's what I'm curious about. What is the issue? Because I agree with you. Look, the offense, you watch them play, it's kind of like some of those Lizards teams. All right. I would come home after these games and I'd always watch the whole game afterwards because I was a psychopath. And I'd sit there and be like, look at that motion. Oh my God, that was easy. That goal was so easy. These guys are so good. The next time down, dude, what do you think? Why don't you just do the same shit?
Right.
And you're like, that used to infuriate me about professional lacrosse, especially in the MLL, where you have the best players in the world. If they just continue to move and keep the ball hot, they're going to score all the time. The only reason MLL teams wouldn't score sometimes is because one guy was trying to do it too much. So here's my question. When you watch the Archers, do you think there's a little bit too much of, we know who we are, let's sling this thing through the defense? Or do you think that they need to go to just hit singles faster and better than everybody else?
Well, speaking on that, right? Like you just talked about how that was a hindrance to some guys in the MLL. A guy like Romar Dennis, right? Think about what he's done for this Atlas team, though. Like he comes in, he just changed his whole game. He's a piece of the puzzle. He's not trying to shoot twos. He's not literally trying to just pump the ball 12 times a game. And that kind of selflessness is kind of why that youth is kind of paying off, right? Like
great point.
Right? So you look at the Archers and you go, okay, so their D middies are unbelievable defenders. right? Dominique, McNeil, those guys play defense.
Dude,
well.
those two do not get nearly enough credit for how good they are.
They're unbelievable defensively, though. But here's the deal. Every team in this league right now has a transition threat and has a D-Mitty that really makes you think on offense, like he might pull up, which Danny Logan for the Atlas, Tarafanko, like every team has one. There's no, so I honestly go back to, is that roster built for today's game? Meaning, are those D-Middies, are they kind of phasing out so that position's kind of changing?
That is such an interesting point because you're right. Every team has more of a tranny guy, similar to indoor, whereas the Archers do have very pure defensive mids. And when you think transition, you're like, oh, well, Ratliff. And you're like, yeah, well, almost every LSM in the entire league
could play off.
Not, obviously Ratliff's a special type of player, but everybody can create transition LSM wise. That's a really good point for the shorties. That's something I haven't thought about. Yeah, that's a really interesting.
That is a good point for
thing
sure.
to think about.
The
Thanks,
Archers
guys.
do have Jeff Trainer out of UMass, guy who's had a couple points here and there.
And he's Jeff Trainer reminds me a lot of Tarafanko.
He's
He's
a
a tough dude.
And they have Latrell Harris, who also, he plays the box game. He's got a good stick. But yeah, maybe seeing them more in the mix. But the Archers have no slouch next week. We'll get into it later when we do our pick 'em. But they have the Whips next week, so they got a lot to figure out fast. But with that, we'll transition into the Whips. In their game last week, they took down the Chrome 9-8, the lowest scoring game of a weekend that seemed like goals were just coming left and right. Both teams in single digits. My boy Keegan Khan led the Whips with 3 points. But guys, what'd you see in this one? A tough win from the Whip Snakes is status quo or what?
I was impressed at the score being so low because honestly, playing in that indoor, we played there in MLL when we played in the MLL. So Greg and I
actually never played there.
Oh yeah, I did the championship year with Ohio. So seeing the ball in there is really hard, man.
Especially on that one side with the glass window with the sun coming in.
Yeah. So listen, those goalies were locked in, right? Like I thought Bernlo's just so steady, dude. The way he plays, he's consistent. He knows how to win. He knows he doesn't need to make 18 saves. He needs to make 12. 12 will get him a W. Nard's doing his thing at 52% will get him a W. And then the rest of them do their job. It just seems like a machine, right?
Yeah.
We don't give them enough credit. Every week we do this, but they look so comfortable in those 1-goal games, those ones where you got to pull it out last minute. They do it all the time now.
Well, and like we had just touched on before, like to know that you don't need to go over 50% in order to win your games. And you don't need a Herculean effort in case to still win your games. Dude, that does so much for your psyche of your team. And it does a lot for your face-off guy and goalie. When you're sitting there every game going, man, if I don't go 70%, I don't know if we're going to win. That's a bear. Now, the Whip Snakes greatness comes from what you had just said. Can you tell me again who was the highlight player of the game for the offense?
Rookie Keegan Khan, 3 points.
You didn't say Rambo. You didn't say Zed. You didn't say Carlson. You didn't say a lot of other names that keep popping up every week. And here, that's what their strength is. They're the deepest team in the league, in my opinion, when it comes to stepping up when it's needed. And it's like, oh, they're blanketing Rambo this game. That's cool. Pass it to Zed. That's cool. Pass it to the next guy. Pass it to the next. Oh, he got 4 points. All good. And that's the thing. They can win when they put up points. They can win when it's a low scoring game. They don't, and they seem to be totally fine winning 1-goal games because I feel like over 50% of their wins historically are one goal games.
I was just going to say an interesting stat. They're 6-1 leading the standings, and their score differential is only 8.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said about their superstar. He doesn't push when it's a matchup that is not in his favor. So Rambo, a lot of guys in our league tend to make it personal, right? They make it personal. They're like, all right, this guy's beating my ass. I got to score a couple. He literally will just defer, and he'll defer and he'll let it. He knows what's around him. So if Durkin or someone, a one covers on him, he'll take him out and say, I'm good. And just let them play offense. And for him to do that with no ego, that's a culture thing. That's like a winning culture. I'm telling you, that's 100%. What I see.
And it also, I mean, it's mature, right? Rambo's been playing the game long enough now in the pros. He's mature about it. But it also says a lot just from not just like in-game maturity, but out-game maturity. I feel like the outside presence, social media, the press, that really is what creates that, I think, a lot for these guys in this generation right now is like, I remember like late in my career, I'm like, if a guy scored a goal, I'm like, oh shit, that's going to end up on Instagram. Right. So when you're Rambo and you're sitting here, that especially, the ESPN commentators are about as hyperbolic as it gets. Right. Like,
we got to get you in the booth, Greg.
The first game of the season, TD and Baptiste are out there taking a face off, and they're like, and Anish is like, the two best face-off men in the history of the game.
You don't like that?
I'm gonna fucking text Paul Canopy right now.
Wires
I think
crossed.
that comment. And so like, now in these games, if you're Rambo and you're like, dude, I gotta score at least one, because all I'm gonna hear is Kark reminding us about how this dude shut me out last time we played over and over and over again. And a whole bunch of tweens are going to get on me on Instagram about it. And he just says, who gives a shit, man? Get the ball to the guy who's hot and score. That guy wants rings. That's all he wants. And dude, tell you what, how much do you want a player like that on your team? I would do anything for guys like that on my team.
I would love to play with Rambo. Just the way how he leads, right? I think you said it. He's maturing in front of our eyes, right? Yeah. Watching him come up the ranks here. He's their guy. He's their general, right? And it's not like he's his style of leading isn't probably my style, but guess what? Those guys respond to that cool, calm collectedness, right? And they know that they trust the guy next to them to bury that shot or bury that goal, right? It's just a trust. I think it's a trust and it's a culture thing that no other team in this league right now has.
Yeah. Absolutely. And on the other side of this game, if you guys have been following along with this podcast, you all know that I'm huge on the Chrome. Yeah, they lost, but they were in this game, and that's gotta be, a little bit comforting. Obviously not a loss, but saying, hey, when the chips fall and this season's over, we are in it with the best fucking team in this league. Like, one goal game, you guys know, one goal games can go either way. It's, it comes down to a couple plays here and there. So they need to feel a little bit good about themselves that, yes, they can fucking hang, coming from where they were at the bottom of the barrel to now competing with the best. They've skidded a little bit, but I'm not worried about them at all.
Well, that plays right into exactly what I was just saying about the Whip Snakes. If you're the Chrome, this is a big moment for you because you have a stud face-off man, and he got beat up a little bit in this game, and they still only lost by one.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome for them against arguably the best team in the league. I mean, terrible argument, but you can argue with me all you want, but I'm calling them the best team in the league.
No, they are.
And, that says a lot for their confidence moving forward, and just like you said, Sibes, like we've all been in that locker room before. It's like, if we just didn't do this, then we would have won. Right. So it's like clean up a couple things, be ourselves, and we're good to go. So,
well, yeah. And Sibes, don't know if what you said, their attack is like so promising, right? Like looking at Wisnauskas, looking at Nick Turn, Heacock's, like a juggernaut still. I think those guys have all the tools to make a run. Now, Greg knows this best. That matchup based face-offs are matchup based, right? Like so watch. I don't think that changes, right? Narge has always done well against Connor, right? I mean, I just feel like it's so matchup based in that face-off aspect that you're gonna have to find out another intangible how to win.
Yeah, I think it's also it's the unit. Like the Whip Snakes unit is so daunting. Like
Trevor off the wing.
Trevor put them in a casket this year earlier, right? That's impressive because you're basically facing off. It feels like you're facing off against four people when you face off against that team.
Yeah.
And Earhart covers more ground. He's like the American version of what Brody Merrill was when he was in his prime. He's like, what the guy's got omnipresence. And every single time the ball's loose, there's already two Whip Snakes. Any two of those three are on it ahead of time. So I agree with you. They're going to have to come up with a couple different things. But like Saj said, man, that's one extra save. That's 1-2 instead of stepping on the line for a 1. That's beating one guy out at the end line. That's why our game is so sick, dude.
I disagree, dude.
Scotty, don't you think Scanoni's kicking himself? Because that shot that Brad Smith had and he popcorned it out and Zed put it back for a garbage goal. Don't you think he's like, oh, if I could have just clean saved that and up and down it the other way?
Yes, but it's not that one play. Like I could do that over every game. Look back and say, I should have had that one. Should have had that one.
Yeah, that's what we do as athletes. So that's why you try to get better. You say, okay, that time when he was taking the shot and I wasn't backing it up, instead I was creeping on that post. I got to know he's going to take that shot. So next time, 2 weeks later, he shoots it and you're there for the backup. That's how you get better. Yeah. My point is, they're not just because if it's not the case, then they're just going to sit there and be like, oh, we're just going to lose to them every single time, no matter what we do. So my point is,
my point is, I'm just saying I think experience is what we're trying to say. Experience doesn't change here because the Whipsnakes have it, right? Like they have the experience. They've been in those games. And all these other teams that are playing the Whipsnakes have a little bit of a mental, it's almost like an intimidation, right? Like they know if they go deep into the fourth, it's probably going to be, they pull it out.
It's totally in your head. Totally agree with you. In the international game with Team USA, that's what it was always like with Canada, because in the international game, there's no shot clock. There's nothing. It's the worst possible version of lacrosse. And you're like, oh, shit, like we're down by 2 now, and there's only 1 quarter left. Canada's going to hold it for 9 minutes at a time. You get like this heart palpitation. And I remember same thing with the Lizards in 2015. We got to the championship game, and the whole game, the Rattlers were up by 1 or 2, no matter how hard and how well we were playing.
Right.
And I had been in enough championship games where we lost, where I was like, dude, if this happens again, I'm going to kill myself in front of all these people. It's going to be so awkward for everybody. So yeah, I agree with you. They have that mental thing. And that's what we talked about a couple of weeks ago on, I think it was episode 2, about blood in the water. Is if the Chrome hit a 2 instead of a 1 on one play, or if they win one faceoff that goes their way instead of going out of bounds, and they score a goal, it goes at OT and they win, we're having a completely different conversation about how there's blood in the water now. Oh my God, they're beatable. And now when you're playing them next week, the Archers would be like, oh shit, they lost last week. That practice, as you know, Scotty, is totally different next Friday, if that's the case. So we'll see.
Because you see a chink in the armor, right? Yeah. When you see a chink in the armor, it makes it a little easier when you prepare, honestly.
You need hope.
They look more human. All of a sudden, they're human again. But yeah, exactly. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on both those teams next week. I'll keep rooting for my Chrome. I got to get myself a Chrome shirt. I just got to pick what player I'm going to pick.
Mm-mm. Make sure that it's a chrome colored shirt, though.
Okay.
I don't. Hey, by the way, I do not like these matte gray buckets. You're the chrome, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. It's nice to mix it up, though.
Yeah, it is. Mix it up with
these guys can sell
color.
on sideline swap after.
Give me some chrome pink.
Say something bad about them.
Give me some chrome pink.
All right, guys. The next game we got to talk about here are the Water Dogs. They beat the Cannons 15-14. We touched on this guy last week, Kieran McCardle. We said that, we haven't mentioned him enough. He popped off. He went 3-4. Lyle's still doing his thing for the Cannons, but they can't get over the hump. What'd you guys see in this one?
I feel like Lyle is like Russell Westbrook when he was on OKC. Like he's going to get his points. He's going to get his points. He's going to get his triple-double, right? But the people around him, right? Like he can make other guys better. He really can. I don't know if they have it this year. They might be building for the future, I kind of feel like. But like it also comes down to they got to dig a little deep, man. The toughness thing, they pride themselves on grittiness and toughness. It's like at some point, someone's got to stand up in that locker room and be like, enough is enough, man. Like we need to pull out a win. Like every team is not that much better than the next team in that league. Like they're really not.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm just want to talk about Kieran McCardle for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 5th in the league in points. So, I mean, he's making a strong case for himself. Now, first in the league in points is Lyle, who has 30, and he's played only 6 games. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Kieran's having an excellent season. I think with the Cannons, there were some good things to take from that game. I think that's what's frustrating for them. They actually were over 50% on faceoffs. Kudos to Bones Kelly, because in the second half, Bones just, instead of dealing with Withers' nonsense, because Withers, there was a point where he's put together a string of wins and he's standing up and raking. Bones decided to just put the ball through his legs, turn and scoop. And he's athletic as hell, and it was working. Shocked that the Water Dogs didn't take that away, because he killed them with that. He actually had a goal off a face-off too, and Withers slipped. So they were getting some stuff that they haven't been getting, and they still couldn't pull it out. I think that Water Dogs team, they go from defense to offense so fast, man. I mean, it literally looks like an NLL game. I mean, the ball is on the turf for one bounce, and it moves so fast, and they score, and they were scoring in bunches that way out of transition. And even when it wasn't transition, even when it was like, oh, it's like 5-on-5, boom, 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 goal.
Yeah.
So they just love to sling it, and you can tell that team, I think they really like each other. And Sowers is looking like Sowers, man. He's looking like the dude we thought he was. Right?
Yeah, but I think the X factor there is that kid, Jack Hanna. I mean, he.
Thank you for bringing him up. I totally agree with you.
That kid, when he shoots that ball, man, it is popping.
Yo, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody after the men's USA tryout, and I was like driving home, and I was talking to somebody on the phone, and we were like, dude, like this Hanna dude, like, is it too late to have him come into the tryout in the tryout process? Because he's having a hell of he had a hell of a spring. He's having a hell of a summer. Dude, that backhanded rip
Sick,
was so
sick.
Ridiculous. I was like, Jesus, you just scored on somebody's son like that. Like that's
sliced it
so
too.
mean.
So
Yeah.
crazy.
He's great.
And it's crazy too, because he's a Denver product, and it seems like Tierney and Matt Brown are just finding these diamonds in the rough. He's from Ohio, and he's a baller. He's such a big and athletic kid. He looks great. I mean, this midfield unit that the Water Dogs have is so underrated.
Mhm.
With Hannah,
Their whole offense.
Ryan Brown, Connor Kelly, Schlossner, they have just legitimate downhill two-way midi threats.
By the way, Brownie and Schlesinger weren't playing this week.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
And they still put up 15.
Yeah. They were slinging it. I mean, they're going to have some choices to make. That coaching staff is going to have great situation to have.
Yeah. So the thing about Schlosser, though, we keep talking about these midfield units that have initiators and separators. He is that. He's so fast, right? Like he gets the separation, he draws a slide, and I think that gives their offense that backside look that they're looking for with their shooters. So, like I said, they're special. They're coming together. They're young pups last year. This year, they're kind of showing some growth. I think they're going to be a playoff team. I mean, they're going to be making some noise. I don't know what kind of noise, but
question for you now that you bring that up. If you're the Water Dogs and say next week they play well again with this exact same lineup, thinking about what you had said about the Archers midfield, would Schloss be a person on the trade block? And if that were the case, this is completely hypothetical, what would the Water Dogs need in return? What would they need in return for that?
I mean, their defense is fine, right? But like they could always get a guy. Like I think they don't have a guy right now, right?
What if
Defensively?
Yeah.
I think Ben Randall's a pretty solid one.
I played with Ben, like in Ohio. He's phenomenal. But is he a one?
who are the Water Dogs defensive midfielders?
Steve DeNapp.
Yeah. I think he's healthy right now.
Ryan Conrad runs two ways.
So here's what I'm asking. What about Schloss for McNeil or Schloss for Alexander?
I don't think the Water Dogs would give him up.
I don't think the Archers would do it, to be honest.
No, I'm just having some fun with it.
Yeah,
Do you think that would fulfill two needs?
Danny?
I think both teams would also want to pick. So I think
I think you need some even I don't know if Ryan Brown's hurt or whatnot, but you're not giving up our
Brownie got absolutely crippled.
Yeah.
The week before. Did you see that hit?
Yeah.
I can't believe he's able to chew with his mouth with like his teeth still in his head. That's unbelievable. If you missed it, everybody, go back and watch it. It's tough.
But going off that, their style, right? The Water Dog style is, I feel like they like to run and gun. And with that said, when you hit the playoffs and you run into these, the Atlas could do it. The Atlas could go run and gun with you. But the Whip Snakes, man, they're gonna take away something and throw a little chink in your armor, and it's not gonna be a fluid offense. They're gonna make it a different offensive game for you. I just think that style in the regular season is fine, but like they're going to run into something in the playoffs where it's like it's going to be a 9-8 game.
Yep.
And I will say that before this week, the Cannons did make some moves. They, I think, added Cochran. He was swimming around in the player pool, looking for someone to finish. They dropped Shane Jackson for him, it looked like, which is interesting because he's a swarm boy with Lyle, and he's pretty comparable lefty finisher as Cochran. But Cochran played for Cork in the MLL Cannons, so there might be a little something there. But it will be interesting to see the moves the Cannons are making because they are trying. They're trying to figure their shit out. So it will be interesting to watch them down the stretch, and they are there. They're close. They're losing 1-goal games. They're in these games, but yeah, they're on the struggle bus a little bit right now.
Yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all.
Yeah. Let's transition to the last game of the weekend. And a super fun game to watch. The Chaos won 14-12 over the Redwoods. We were big on the Redwoods leading up. They had a big win the previous week, got knocked back down a peg. The Chaos looked like they were back in their championship form.
It's something about the Chaos, man. They love like being with their backs against the wall. It's like they need that. They need the animal, like they need this like pressure, which is like crazy because everyone's counting them out. But these guys, I honestly believe they think that they're fine. And that's a crazy mindset, but it's a scary mindset. Every week you got to play it. And they think they're the best team still. And that's what we talked about, Greg. Like, yeah, you see a team lose and you're like, oh no, like they think, they're a little weak right now. That team, they don't give that off, man. They really don't.
And we talked about it on the first show about, I don't care if the Chaos go down 0-5. I don't care if they're gonna win at the back end. Now, will they still be in playoff contention? We didn't know, but we know they're going to put together a bunch of wins. And I just honestly think it just has to do with their offense catching their breath. I think the All-Star break was phenomenal for them. And we knew that they were capable of doing this. Blaze has not been completely shutting people out.
Yep.
And their offense is putting up numbers. So when Blaze is Blaze, you're totally screwed if their offense is getting it. I also, I think the Redwoods, they frustrate you a little bit because they will bang the ball, they'll score in bunches, and then their offense will completely go away for a while.
Yep.
So, it's interesting. Jack Kelly had a really strong first half. I mean, he was making some point blank saves. One thing that I didn't have on my Sunday bingo card that showed up was Matt Palm and the officials letting Max Adler have a total seizure up at the faceoff stripe every single time without getting set, without stopping moving, doing whatever he wanted, going way early every time with impunity. If I'm TD Erlin, I'm getting fined at halftime because I'm putting Matty on a table. Like it was hard to watch. And we'll get more into that later. But I think when the Chaos get the things they need, when they're at 50%, I mean, dude, they've taken a straight up playoff run and won a championship going 30% at the stripe. So they don't need it. They don't give a shit. All they need is Blaze being anywhere close to normal Blaze. And I think their offense is officially hot now. They're starting to look like the late game Chaos from last season.
I think the X factor is Dane, right? Like when Dane gets involved.
Oh yeah.
That's a whole different team, man. 1-6.
1-6.
I mean, that's a whole different team. Like when he's going off like that, they're sharing the ball. They're getting their backhanded goals. They're getting the jump goals, the momentum they get. So it used to be 2-pointers for them that really set them up. Now it's the crazy BTBs and the jump goals. And they always feed on momentum. That's the thing with them. It's like, if you give them a little inch, they're going to take the game.
Yeah.
But some of these goals too, you talk about the highlight reel ones. Dane Smith is making these tape-to-tape passes that you could get a U13 player to sit on the back pipe and dunk it. Like he's just putting it on these guys' ear for layups. They when they scored their goals, when their offense was clicking, they made it look easy.
Yeah, they did.
Very easy.
They literally made it look easy. And you're like, yo, this is a really good Redwoods defense. This is not easy.
And a group of defensemen that know each other, that have played together. And I thought it was a bad matchup, honestly, having Glazner on Josh Byrne. I thought Byrne took advantage of that matchup. He took him to the cooker a few times. He had his way. I mean, he's a, phenomenal attackman. He probably honestly doesn't get enough credit, or not on the show, at least. We haven't mentioned him that much, but he had a phenomenal game, and he's probably that motor that makes that offense run.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Byrne's great, man. And when the chaos start to get warm like this, I'm sure it gives the Team USA coaching staff some heartburn. Because that chaos offense, there's gonna be a lot of those names playing in those World Games next year. And yeah, they're moving the ball just like we thought they would.
Absolutely. So yeah. So now the Chaos and Redwoods both sit at 2-5. I think the way the PLL playoffs are set up, they both still have a decent chance of getting into the playoffs. We're going to be interested to see if the Chaos can get in, can make a run. But now we're very excited to turn this over to our interview with Taylor Cummings. She was the first ever 3-time Tour-a-thon winner. She's won at every level, national champion, world champion. Taylor, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you on. Everyone, welcome to the podcast. Taylor Cummings, our 4th episode of Rise Up. We're so pumped to have you on. I know Scotty and Greg know you a little bit better than I do, but obviously I know who you are, and I'm super happy to get you on here and finally meet you in person. And I know Scotty and Greg were talking all week to be pumped to have you on.
Thanks for having me. Excited to chat with you all.
Yeah, Taylor, thanks a lot. Obviously, a heck of a summer here that you're having. An emotional goodbye as well. So I really want to cover a lot of stuff with you. First, just kind of take us through what it was like. Did you know this was going to be your last hurrah this summer?
I'd kind of always used like this World Cup as sort of a benchmark. Like hopefully I'd make it, and we kind of make a decision from there. And with it getting pushed back a year, that was obviously that added another year to things. And I didn't really know. I had a feeling that this was probably my last one. I just turned 28, and with it getting pushed, it aligned kind of with my wedding and sort of this like just really like a start of a new chapter. But I didn't know for sure. And then even the night after we won, I was, talking with Jade Iyer, and it's like, could I do a third? Like, do I obviously had a couple of beverages and was like, maybe I can do a third. Like, I feel like I could. And then, I kind of took those 2 weeks between when we won and when I announced just to kind of like enjoy it and just kind of think about what I wanted moving forward. And I really just couldn't imagine going out in a better way with a World Cup on home soil. But I just felt this like feeling of like not being content, but like feeling like I'd done all I wanted to do. And I wanted it to end like on a high. And I've always said I wanted to end on my own terms. I'd never wanted to be the person that was like, she's only making it because she's Taylor Cummings, or, she really needs to hang up the cleats. Like, I kind of wanted that feeling of like ending it on my own. And, I felt like at the end of that 2 weeks, just like really secure in the decision. And it wasn't an easy one by any stretch of the means, but just one that I felt really good about. And, with US, just it being such a grueling kind of grind for so many years, and the tryout process is so lengthy, I just think I'm going to be in a different spot in 4 years than I am now.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I was asking that because I remember when I was going into the World Games, I wasn't planning on competing again after 2014, but I loved the coaching staff so much that I wanted to go for it one more time. And it was surreal, kind of like knowing this was it for me, being part of that. And I love that you said you want to go out on your own terms, because I said the same thing about MLL, and I think a lot of people would watch you right now and be like, why is she hanging it up now? Like, she's not even 30. She's crushing it. But that's what the people don't understand, I think, unless they're athletes. I think Scotty will have a lot to say about this as well, which is they think about seeing you on the field for that 40 minutes or an hour. They don't think about the 364 days that led up to that day that you have to do, especially when you're married and then when kids come along, and other obligations. So, you went out about as spectacularly as you could possibly go out. So I give you credit to that. Scotty?
Yeah, Taylor, I mean, like Greg said, nobody really knows like how much goes into this like off season. I watch you up at Jay's, you're always training, right? Just like that grueling whole year, right? And then it's all for that summer little piece. I don't miss it. Like, I'm retired. Greg still trains like a psycho, but like I don't miss that craziness. What do you think? Like, is this one of your, like, are you gonna miss it? Are you gonna miss the Jay Dyers? Are you gonna miss doing that stuff? Are you gonna miss the preparation?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, after we won, I hugged Jay and I started to like sob. And I think that was kind of like my realization that it was probably like my time with him training as an athlete was probably done. And that was probably the hardest thing, is to, he's like, that training aspect is such a consistent part of my life. And I will, of course, like miss the on-field stuff, but like for like 300 days of the year, like it was Jay and I training, whether we were together or not. And like, he was almost like a teammate alongside me. So definitely going to miss that aspect of it. I'm still like trying to figure out a way like to stop. Like, it's hard to kind of like turn it off.
Hard.
But I think like for me, like I always loved to work out before I even really started playing and training at the level I do. So I know like that, like fitness and like a healthy lifestyle will be, my way for forever. But it's just kind of figuring out, like, it has been nice to not have to run sprints. Right. It has been nice to not have to like deadlift or squat or like, so like I am enjoying aspects of it. But I think that relationship with Jay was like, knowing that this was probably my last time, I was so already like sad about it. And then like telling him that I was done, like I couldn't even call him. I had to text him because I was like, if I see you in person, I'm going to sob. If I call you, I'm going to cry. And I'm like, that's a terrible situation for you that you have to deal with me on the phone. So I saw him the next day and like we hugged it out. But that's definitely going to be like the weird part, is kind of just that transition into like, what do I do now?
Yeah. I think, my other question was like, you and Kayla are done, right? So like, what is the state? How do you feel like that US team, like you left it in good hands? Is it better than it's been? I know you guys were such an important piece of this thing, and leadership wise, that's like 2 spots you have to really fill. So how do you feel the state of that program's in, with you probably not, you've been doing it since college?
I mean, I think it's in excellent hands. You even saw sort of in that championship, almost like the changing of the guard a little bit. Like at the end, like Sam Apuzzo kind of put the team on her back. Ali Mastriani was like crushing the draw circle. Like, and so I think you have these guys where it was their first World Cup. By the end of it, they were starting to turn into the vets, and they were a much different player than they were on, I think, June 29th when we started. And then you have vets coming back. Like, I'm sure Marie McCool will probably be back. You're going to have people who, have done 2 that may go for 3. You have the up and coming next generation of Charlotte North and Emma Trenchard, and people who now have a World Cup under their belts. And as somebody who was a rookie in 2017 that then became a vet in 2022, like that experience you really lean on and you grow from it and you become a leader, whether you want to or not. And I think that program, the team is in just incredible hands, and I'm excited to, watch them and see how they kind of turn into those leaders themselves at this next level. They've been captains, they've led their college teams, but to step foot into like a leadership role at the top program in the world, it takes a lot, but they're more than capable and ready. And I'm just excited to, watch them from afar.
I would say, I mean, I did say it on Twitter, that this was the greatest lacrosse team of all time. Now, I personally hate the discussion of best women's player, best men's player, blah, blah, blah. Best lacrosse team I've ever seen in my life. A lot of that has to do with people like yourself who were banging on doors and constantly reminding people in the public that the women's game was not getting nearly as much televised attention as the men's game. What do you think it did for the women's side of lacrosse, having those games on ESPN so that people all over the world could be like, oh my God, look at this?
I mean, it was huge. I remember in 2017 when we were in England, it was like you had to pay like $25 for a stream per game. And obviously the time zone made it different, but it was just not accessible. Like my family was trying so hard to figure out how to just watch me play. And to be able to turn on like ESPN2 for our championship game, to be able to stream it on ESPN Plus and have games on TV as well throughout the tournament. I mean, you're just getting the common sports fan to perhaps just turn it on and watch. And I think that we've really seen growth in the past year in terms of like this accessibility to both sides, but particularly the women's side, just in terms of being able to turn on a real TV channel, not have to go through an app, and just watch the game. And that's how you get more people involved. That's how you get more excitement around it. You generate revenue, you get those viewership numbers. And I mean, after the college Final Four, there was like 420,000 people watching that game on ESPN, in comparison to 80,000 the year before with ESPNU. So when you think about it that way, like it shows the interest is there. We just have to get it on things that people don't have to hunt down to find.
Yeah, no, I agree. Taylor, I always think about how our games are similar but different. Like in our pro game, rookies really don't come in and make a splash. It takes about a year or two, maybe 3, to kind of get their feet wet and kind of adjust, because the speed, the physicality, all that stuff. In your game, I'm starting to see the women's players are ready to go, like right out of college. Like they're so talented, they're so athletic, they're so fast, IQ's there. Do you think those programs, like playing at Maryland, right, playing at UNC, Boston College, is that something that's kind of, you think, the difference maker for these young players, like just kicking it off in the pro all summer and then nationally?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when you make that jump from college to pro or to international, it's the same thing in terms of, you know, being thrown into a faster game where you have to make decisions more quickly under pressure. And now you're trying out for something, as opposed to in college where you have 4 years guaranteed there if you behave and don't get kicked off your team. So, you know, I think these guys coming in, like our game is continuing to elevate at the college level. And I'd say the talent level as a whole is just better, because like it's just getting better every year. Like I think more people are really honing into their craft. There's more things to do in the off season to get prepared. The amount of training, I'm not a huge like showcase fan, but like individual training that people are going to actually learn lacrosse IQ, to get the reps in, that's helping and paying dividends for the college game, and then continuing through to the US and pro level. So I definitely think that like kids who are coming from, you know, the top 10 programs especially are coming in super prepared. There's still an adjustment, and it's almost more so like a mental and emotional one of like knowing you deserve to be out there, finding your place, finding that confidence. But like the physical side of it, they're ready. It's just the decision making and the emotional side of like the confidence thing that kids struggle with. And I know I struggled with it when I got thrown in as a sophomore. And
so did I.
you know, I think everyone goes through it, but they're adapting much more quickly, which, you know, as a vet, as somebody who had Charlotte North come in June of last year, to see where she came June of this year, you know, she didn't take a long adjustment period. She found her footing really quickly. And I think that's a testament to, you know, her and the coaching she's receiving, you know, at BC.
Now, I want to kind of switch gears a little bit here, because you're retiring from Team USA, and, you know, for good reason, but I'm interested in those reasons. What's next for you? What's going to be taking up all this time so that you're going to be focusing on something else?
You know, that's a good question. I don't honestly know. I mean, I'm getting married in September. And you know, and you know, I want to have kids. You know, I think that's something I've always wanted, is to have kids and to have them fairly young. So, you know, when I was 12 years old, I thought I'd have kids by 24, and then I turned 24 and was like, you are insane. And I think a lot of women go through that, but you know, I want to have kids. I also want to get more into like broadcasting. I really love doing that this spring. And, I kind of just want to open up the time to be able to explore other things. I'm somebody that when I train, I go in 1,000%. And that, as you guys all know, like that takes you away from sometimes just like life, like weddings and
100%.
vacations and like personal things that, you miss and sacrifice, happily so. But I think I'm just ready to kind of not have my life dictated by my playing schedule, which will be weird, but I think it's something that, I'm really ready for too.
Are you going to continue coaching?
Yep. So I'm still going to coach in the spring. It gives me just, my staff and my school are really, really flexible with me. Not that there was a ton in the spring, but especially when I was coaching at teaching at McDonough in the fall and having to miss things, I was so supported by that. And I'm excited to give, pretty much all of my attention in the spring now to my McDonough kids. They deserve to have a coach with their full attention on them. And, I think we have a really great group this year. So just excited to get back out there with them too.
100%.
I have a question for you, Taylor.
Mhm.
Arguably, Greg said, he mentioned, he doesn't like the conversation, greatest athlete or greatest team of all time, but, you've won at every level. But do you have, one memory that you're the fondest of, or maybe the proudest of in your career now looking back on it?
I think I've had so many just like incredible team experiences. And for me, those will always stick out. I think my greatest individual memory is actually being chosen to carry out the flag before a gold medal match. Emma Trenchard gave me the flag, and that's kind of a tradition we have. And, I was a mess. I was sobbing in the locker room. And I think that's just something that, as I kind of knew in the back of my head that this was my last chance to step on the field, like that was just such a huge honor to me. And then I think my favorite team memory is, honestly, it's probably winning this gold, just because it had never been done on home soil before by a host country. And we won. Like, this was one of my favorite teams because we were so talented and so many alphas, like so many big names with big presences and big personalities. And being on a team with all women, obviously, like, it can be tough, and there can be some chatter, and there was never once like a hint of like animosity or jealousy or like, I don't understand why she's getting the ball. Like, we just dropped all of our egos at the door. We played whatever role we needed to play in different games. And we just love to play and support one another and compete together. And I think, like, yes, we had a ton of talent. And from the outside looking in, it's like, how could they not have won? But from the inside, with so much talent, there's also like the balancing of everybody and like dropping the egos at the door, which isn't always the easiest thing for people.
Taylor, I was on a team. We thought we were good in the PLL. It was me, Paul, Hartzell, Trevor. We had everyone. Ryan Brown. We were 3-10, right? Like, we couldn't figure out that culture, and that's like the last thing I wanted to talk about. I was watching a pregame speech, or maybe the practice or training week. The head coach was talking about the culture, right? The legacy that you guys leave behind. How important is that, like, for that program? Do you think you get that culture from, like, because I know how great the culture is in Maryland, like what you guys have built there. Is that something that you think has like kind of transpired and made an identity for the U.S., like the women's team?
Definitely. And I think with this group, we are only represented 5 schools. So it was Maryland, Carolina, Syracuse, Boston College, and Stony Brook. So arguably, like, the top 5 schools in the country this past year that was it. And then we had JMU for Haley Warden as an alternate. So again, a team that's won a national championship in the past, 4 years. And I think, like, what we all understand coming from those top programs that are consistently getting top kids every single year is that if you want to win, like, you have to play together. You have to get to know your teammates off the field. You have to build the bonds and the trust away from lacrosse so that when you do get on field, you can push one another. You have the trust amongst each other to, get on top of somebody if they miss a slide or, we're not playing to our standard, and have that ability to have the tough conversations, but not have feelings get hurt. And the second you step off the field, you're best friends again. And I think because we all played at such not only high level schools, but schools where their cultures are such a part of their identity and a part of who they are and why they're successful. I think we all drew upon sort of our individual experiences at the different schools we went to and knew that if we were going to win, it was going to be because of the bonds we created off field. And I think that's something we really, really tried to do. And it was hard with COVID. It was hard, being away for almost a year and a half in between practices, but we made it work. And I can honestly say, like, that was the most fun, like 2.5 weeks of living in a dorm room as a 28-year-old than like I could have ever imagined. And I actually like missed the dorms when I got home.
Right. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I agree.
I remember tweeting out halfway through the tournament that it was obvious to everybody who was watching and paying attention. One, that you guys were fast as shit. Oh my God. Dude, you guys it's like everybody on that roster had a 4.240. The second thing was that you guys genuinely loved each other, and you can't fake that. I remember our World Games 2018, same thing with Coach Danowski and that whole group. I didn't know them until we did that. And I love those guys. I'll do anything for that entire staff. Now, how much did you know about the coaching staff going into the World Games? And, what did you learn from that experience as far as about those people?
Yeah, I mean, I really had I'd obviously played against Jenny as at Maryland. I think I'd played against Joe a couple of times, didn't really know Alex that well, and didn't really know Amy that well. Amy was probably the one I knew the best just because she'd been an evaluator at some of our other US events with the previous staff. So in general, I didn't know much about, the staff as a whole and how they'd mesh. And I think, it was really, and it was kind of the same with 2017. I didn't really know that staff either. And I think there was a period where you're all just trying to figure each other out and figure out like what they're like and what they want and, what's important to them. But I think we were able to do that really quickly with this staff. And I think they did a great job. And I'm sure from a coaching perspective, it's hard to have to like coach your own players like that you coached in college, but then like not favor them. And I think they did a good job of that. Like, it's hard to not like use those relationships as a crutch. And I think they did a great job of that. But to come in with so many alphas and figure out how to put a system in and how to create chemistry, knowing that was probably the biggest hurdle. And I think they really focused on a lot of team bonding stuff. Every single weekend, we did some sort of team bonding thing with no lacrosse. And just knew that like the relationships and limiting distractions when we were actually at World Cup were going to be the biggest things. And I
think that you guys have so much pressure on you too, because you're like ambassadors in the national level. Meaning, like I was watching like the Japanese national team; they were just like starstruck to play y'all. And that's so being an ambassador. That's something I wanted to touch on because I know Greg and I take a lot of pride being ambassadors of lacrosse, and we all do it differently, right? Like my style is obviously a little more in your face, right? And Greg's is a little more analytic, and yeah, we'll call it that. But how? Do you feel that pressure? Like, because you are an ambassador in the women's game and you're honestly the best to probably do it, honestly. So how did that feel? Like with all that talent, with everything going on, did you guys feel like you had to be ambassadors of the sport too?
Yeah, but like, I think we like welcomed that. And I think, as far as like on field stuff, like we wanted to play the best lacrosse at the highest level because we knew it was on TV. Yeah. And like, we're trying to showcase that. But I also think like part of our mindset was, the US lacrosse came up with the slogan, like more than a medal. And I think that actually fit us perfectly. Like we wanted to help grow this sport. We wanted not only, for the young guys coming to watch the games, but even within the international community itself. And I think we were able to, do both of those things really well while also competing. And so I think we kind of like had to compartmentalize a little bit where like when we were on field, it was like a business trip. Yep. And then when we were, post game after intermingling with teams and fans and young girls, like we really tried to thank them for being there because that was one of our goals is to get them in those seats. And two, hopefully inspire them so that like one day one of the girls' posters we signed will be out on the field. And I know, I used to be them, and we all used to be them. And so I think for us, like that wasn't so much of like a responsibility as it was like a privilege and like a huge honor to be there. And, we even had fans, our Australia regular game got postponed to like a 10:15 p.m. start. And we still had fans in the stands on like a Tuesday night in the summer at like 11:45 after the game, waiting for us to sign autographs. And even though we were dead tired and we wanted to go to bed, like we also wanted to honor them for being there. So definitely, I mean, pressure is like, at this point, we've all been under pressure since like college, because we all have competed at such a high level. But I think it's like welcomed, and I see it more as like a privilege rather than like a burden.
I like it.
Absolutely. And thank you so much again, Taylor, for coming on. And we don't want to take up all of your time.
Oh,
Guys, do we have one last question for Taylor before she heads out?
She's got to go train, dude.
She's saying all the right things, but she's going to Jade Iyer at like 6 a.m. No, Taylor, it really was awesome talking to you and getting some insight on this. I'm sure people listening, I mean, you see all the spectacular efforts on TV, but it's really good to hear what it's like, especially when you're bunkering down in the dorms. We've been through that. I've been through that. It's a really unique thing. And when I look back on not playing, the stuff I miss the most are those moments. Being with a teammate at dinner, talking about your lives, or signing an autograph for a kid who's been waiting for 6 months to see you play in person. Like, that's the stuff I'm going to miss. And there's going to be a lot of girls out there that are going to who have your posters on the wall, and they're definitely going to be sending you messages in about 10 years when they're playing, thanking you for this. So thanks for everything that you've done on the field, and thank you for all the stuff you've done off the field and that you're going to continue to do.
Thank you. That means a lot. And, it was great chatting with you guys. I always enjoy myself, and just appreciate the support that you guys have given the women's game. We see it, and it means a lot to us to know that we have, allies from the men's side, pushing our game forward together. And just want to say thanks, because it means a lot.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Taylor.
Thanks, guys.
We're excited to see what comes next from you. Congratulations on a great career.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. We hope you enjoyed that interview with Taylor as much as we had enjoyed having her on. Now we're going to kick it over to a special segment that Greg touched on a little bit earlier, but in the group chat this weekend, he was really unhappy on the way some of the games were officiated. So we're going to give him the floor, let him air out his grievances. Greg, take the mic, baby.
An airing of grievances brought to you by Greg Beast. All right, look. This is not overall about officiating. Now, yes, there was a point, if you were watching the Redwoods game, in which Ryan Boyle was speechless. I don't know if you guys watched this, but there were a couple times where Ryan Boyle literally had no excuse for the referees in a couple calls, and he just started belly laughing on the air. And it was like old-time belly laughing. It was like, because nobody had an answer for some of the shit that was being called. Now, look. I'm never going to be an official, okay? Because I think it's hard as hell. Our sport is not easy to officiate. I'm going to tell you what is easy, though, okay? Now, before I tell you this, I want you to understand something. Matt Palin is the head official for Premier Lacrosse League. Matt was a long-time Major League Lacrosse ref. He's been a long-time NCAA ref. He's ref the Final Fours, the national championship games. Matt Palin is one of the most liked people in our sport, on and off the field. I love Matty, and I think he's a fantastic official. But the one thing he seems to absolutely not give into is the concept that he has to hold a face-off guy's hand. I know he has a good heart about it, because this is what Matt believes, that if you say set and there's a space of time between set and whistle, that there's a good chance a face-off guy could false start, which there is. That's why it's a rule. But because he believes that so much, he completely changed the entire cadence to the rule book in the PLL. Premier Lacrosse League's rule book says, like all rule books, the official is going to say set after the players stop. When the players stop moving, they're going to say set with their hand over the sticks, a physical set call. to signal that the players cannot move. So now it's a fair fight. They're going to take steps back and clear the area, then blow the whistle in which the players can engage in a face-off. The reason you do that, 1, to make sure the guys aren't moving anymore. 2, to make sure that you're out of the way. On average, Maddie's been hit with 1.5 lacrosse balls a game so far this year, costing guys fast breaks. But this is what Maddie does. He says, okay, guys, looks good. And right on the D of good, he moves his foot back, says set, and blows the whistle at the same time. So by definition, on every face-off in the PLL for the last 3 years, guys are going early every time. That's why when he calls you for a false start, the guys literally palms up and swear at him because they don't know what the hell's the difference between what they did before. Now, here's my gripe, because that's not even the gripe. If you watch the Redwoods Chaos game, the Chaos face-off man goes down second every single time. By rule, you're supposed to go down at the same time. So Maddie should say down. Both players line up. The PLL rules are written so that the players can line up easy. All you do is slide your head of your stick right up against their foot. It's right there. TD Erlin sat there like a good soldier as soon as they said down, and he froze for 3 to 4 seconds while Max Adler took his time and had a 5-minute setup, rolling his stick, adjusting both feet, fixing his jock. Once he finally got close to stopping moving, Maddie just backed up, and Maddie just Max never stopped moving, and he just dove into the face-off every single time. Now, Scotty, just so you have an idea, this would be like me telling you to play cornerback, but I'm allowed to take a 10-yard head start to sprint up to the line of scrimmage on offense as a receiver. Okay?
CFL rules.
Yeah, CFL. That's the difference between being a receiver in the NFL and in Canada. Same thing here. If a guy never stops moving, it's easy. It's literally a joke. And he still went 50% against TD. So I'm not hating on Max because, look, Max obviously believes he has to do all these things in order to hang with TD. I get it. Gamesmanship, good for you. It's the referee's job to turn the Madden slider down, stop helping the guys out who need it. And like I told Maddie, I said, Maddie, I don't want your help. What I want you to do is make it fair, call it the way it is, so I can smash this clown. And if you don't do that, look, my phone was lit up like a Christmas tree last night. I was just venting to you guys because I was getting college coaches, high school players texting me. What the hell are they doing out there? They're pissing me off. That's all they're doing. They're ruining my life.
So I got one thing.
My problem.
One thing is Adler, was that his first game facing off?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not
of the season.
Yeah, on the season. So I'm not going to sit here and if they're going to let you get away with it, I'm going to take it. That's how I've always been, right?
Yes, 100%.
Like that's any sport. But if
they said, Scotty, your goalie head, just yours, can be like 3 inches wider. You're going to do that, of course.
100%.
Yeah.
So why isn't TD doing the same thing?
Here's the follow-up question, right? People who don't face off will say, well, then why doesn't he just do the same thing? Because for his entire life, he hasn't. That's not going to help him.
Got it.
This is, you're doing something like this. You've practiced it, and you can tell because he set it up. He did the same thing every single face-off. Now, if one time in the first quarter, Maddie said, dude, I told you to stay set, and blows him one time, blows the whistle, up, you went early, he would have put a stop to it. But you're going to do what you need to do. Chris Eck and I used to have an arms race with this, right? So I knew Chris liked to go down second and kind of get set. And so when him and I would go down, I would try to go down after him. So it literally looked ridiculous. Like we were both playing a game of chicken to see whose hands were going to hit the ground first. That's how much of an advantage it is. So when you're TD, once again, he kept his composure and he still went 50%. But it is such a ridiculous thing because no one is saying, Matt, you are a bad ref. No, you're not a bad ref. That's what makes this infuriating because you didn't do this for 14 years in the MLL. Right. All of a sudden, and even the first year of the PLL, he didn't do this. The first year of the PLL, 8 of us were within 10% of each other in the face-off rankings. Now shit's going haywire because there's the guys who can get away with this stuff. And then there's the guys like Trevor, TK, guys are sitting there going, dude, I don't have to do that to hang with these guys' hand speed.
Right.
So that's my problem is you're going to cost people their jobs. You're going to cost people their careers because look, face-off guys, Scotty, you same thing with goalies. So a goalie is one really shitty game away from being cut, no matter how long he's been playing, no matter how good he is. Face-off guys, the same thing. We are all 130% game away from never playing lacrosse again. So if he goes out there and he, finds a way to do this against somebody who's kind of, maybe they're going up and say he does it against Justin Anasio. Maybe Justin never plays again. Right. Yeah. So that's my problem is Maddie, all we're saying is say set and take 2 steps. That's it. That's what's infuriating about this. And when you talk to the PLL,
you feel better?
Huh?
You feel better?
Not yet.
Okay. You should be getting paid for this little therapy session.
Listen, dude, Jesus, Mike and Paul are obviously scared to death of Matt Palin. Okay. I will hire you guys security. I'll hire you security. And if you can just get me 2 steps back after you say set, I'll do anything because I want to watch good lacrosse. I don't want a college assistant texting me, asking me what the F is going on the lacrosse field of a professional game. Look, Scotty, these games are on TV now, man.
I know.
We're trying to take this shit seriously. And if you want to be serious, be like, oh, I'm gonna turn on this new football league that's going to compete with the NFL. Let me say, oh, they're letting guys grab each other by the face mask and slam into the ground every time. No one's calling. This is bullshit.
Listen, it's almost to me like, how an umpire strike zone changes, right? Yeah. It's on them, right? It's on the umpire. It's also kind of on Maddie, right? So like if his game by game cadences or whatever's happening is changing, yeah, that's something that can be addressed if it's always different. Now, that's the thing is this would be like if the umpire strike zone was not different. It's just that he allowed pitchers, if they wanted to get a running start and throw the ball a little bit closer. And only 1 or 2 guys who don't have the arm to throw it from the rubber are taking advantage of it. And you're going, dude, my lineup usually hits, is usually a 290 batting average. We can't hit a single one today because this guy's sprinting up and throwing the ball right in our face. Well, listen, I'm not going to fight you because you're an expert. So I'm really not, because I do know how much you know this position. It's like the back of your freaking hand. But I got to tell you, I think like players, I think refs have bad games. I think,
look, that's my point though, is Matty Palin doesn't have bad games. He's not a bad ref. Yeah. He's just consistently bad at this one thing because Matty is a stubborn guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's why we love him. Okay.
That's why I love
listen,
players ref.
Matty Palin's story is this one's awesome. Alex Smith, really good faceoff guy, comes in as a rookie, his first game with the Rattlers, comes off the sideline because he didn't like something, and he just chirps Matt real quick as he's running off. Matty in the middle of the game sprints after him to the sideline, gets in his face, and tells him to shut the F up because he's a rookie. That was magical. That is the shit I love about Matty. But what I can't stand is the doubling down, knowing that it's going to cost somebody their career. I take that shit personally because I just don't want it to see it happen to somebody. So that's my thing. And because is so easy to change, everybody in this entire thing, Seth Tierney, Mike, Paul, everybody who is part of writing the checks for Matt Palin, say, Matt, we just want you to say set and make sure you just back 2 steps up.
And I agree with Scotty, your analogy with the strike zone, because you see in the MLB now that they have like the computerized strike zone, and if an umpire's off, he's getting torched on social media. So because everyone at home watching TV can be like, why the fuck did he call that a strike? And
if Matty was inconsistent with his calls, I would say that. But he's a freaking awesome referee. That's why he's controlling this. He's saying, it's like, dude, like you're the umpire. You're like, dude, I told you it's not 4 strikes. It's 3 strikes. No, it's 4. It's gonna be 4. It's like, dude, it's not.
Absolutely.
All right. I feel a lot better now.
I'm glad you feel a lot better. We'll keep an eye on this moving forward. If you agree with us, disagree, let us know. And let Matty Palin know too, if you agree or disagree. And maybe he'll change his tune.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll change his tune. Or he'll tweet at you like he has to me.
Yeah, absolutely. You think he's running his own Twitter?
Oh, absolutely. In between golf rounds, Matty has a lot of time to tweet at me and talk smack, but he just doesn't have time to take 2 steps.
I love it. I love it. Well, we have a new segment to introduce to you guys this week. It's start 'em, sit 'em, cut 'em. And this is an impossible question.
Dude, this is the worst.
We're going to do this every week with new positions. Starting off this week, we got my favorite position, attack. And we have 3 of the best in the league right now. And I'm going to ask these fellas whether they should start this player, sit this player, or cut this player. And it's going to be a tough one. So starting off for you guys, I'm going to start with Scotty. Greg, we'll let you rest your voice for a little bit.
Thank you.
Scotty, are you going to start, sit, or cut Lyle Thompson, Matt Rambo, and Jeff Teat? Go at it.
I'm going to start Teat. Start Teat. What was it? Start, bench, cut.
Start, sit, cut. Yep.
I'll sit Rambo. I'll cut Lyle this week.
Oh my God.
Just this week or off the season or just for next week? What do you
Just for next week, guys.
back it up? Well, give me some rationale.
Listen, I think Lyle he's got to be tired, man. He's carrying the whole load for that team right now. It's literally like watching a one-man show. And I know they got great players. He's doing a lot. He's got to be tired, right? I think Teat is just getting going, man. I honestly see him every week getting better and better. And Rambo, man, listen, he's steady Eddie. I think the Whip Snakes in general, they're just steady, man. That's why I keep him there. But yeah, I think Lyle just is weak. I'd probably cut him this week, which he never probably got cut in his life. And I don't want to be this guy, but God damn it, I hate this.
I like it. I like it though. I mean,
God damn it, I hate this.
that's why you get paid the big bucks. Answer these hard-hitting questions.
All right. So this is just for this coming week, right? Is that what we're talking? If you were to ask me this question in general, the way the season's been going, regardless of who they're playing, I would have said start Lyle, sit Teat, and then cut Rambo. Just from a point standpoint, because it's, you could do it as a coach or you could do it as a fantasy player. Now, but this week, the Whip Snakes are playing the Archers.
Yep.
The Atlas are playing the Water Dogs, who their defense is looking pretty good. The Cannons are playing the Redwoods, who I think are going to play really good defense this week. I'm going to say that I'm going to start Rambo because this is a huge game. Okay, Archers are 4-3. This is 2 playoff teams right now. Rambo always shows up. So I'm going to start Rambo in this game. I'm going to sit Teat and I'm going to cut Lyle just because of the matchups this week.
We're going to get so much shit for cutting Lyle.
Oh, I do. This is why we're doing the podcast. You and I get shit just for breathing. I don't give a shit. What are you going to say to me that's going to be any worse than what I hear on a daily basis?
Nothing. I hear some of that shit.
Not a damn thing.
This question is impossible for that aspect. These are 3 of the best attackmen in the world, and the way I look at it, the way I'm breaking it down is I know you mentioned, Greg, point totals this year. Yes, Lyle's top in the charts, but the way I look at Lyle, it's like he's like LeBron on the Lakers this year. He's the best player in the world. He's going to get his, but the team can't figure out. And then Drenner, you could compare him to like AD, right? Drenner's still doing his thing out there, but they just aren't having that whole team cohesiveness. So for that reason, I'm basing my answer purely off success and win. Who's going to win? Rambo's going to win. I'm going to start Rambo. I'm going to sit Teat. He's still a winner. They're second place. And then I'm going to have to cut Lyle. And I can't believe we're 3 for 3 on that. I mean, he's one of my favorite players to watch. I grew up literally watching his YouTube highlight videos, and he basically started the whole backhand goal epidemic, right? Did you ever see someone really do that before him at that consistent rate? Making it an option to come around the net with your offhand and backhanded like that.
Dude, but yeah, he changed so many people's games. RP added that to his repertoire right afterwards. I'm so sad about this. I feel like we just cut Lyle. I feel like
I agree.
Dude, I hate this shit.
I'm like shocked that I just said that too. But
I know. I'm really disappointed in you.
we can thank the producers for, putting this together and giving us these three players to really twist our brains up, put us in a little bit of a pretzel. But I think these are good answers.
No, I think this says a lot more about what we think of Rambo in big games than it does about that. Did we all say the same thing, or did you start, Scott, did you start Teat?
I started Teat.
Okay. Which, I mean, man, that's going to be a fun game. Those two, oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, let's get – now I'm excited for next week, so let's get into the pick'ems, man.
Absolutely. Great segue right into this week's pick'ems. We have this week, the PLL is going out to Denver, Colorado. They're playing in Peter Barton Stadium, which is University of Denver's stadium. I've had a lot of bad memories there. My teeth have been kicked in a few times, but it's a great location. It's a smaller stadium. They hold about 2,500. There's a great tailgating area. I think it'll be a really fun venue for these players.
Yeah.
First game of the weekend, Friday night, we have Cannons versus Redwoods. We talk about teams desperately needing wins. Both of these teams do. How are you guys feeling on this one?
First I want to talk about Peter Barton, because I think a lot of people are like, well, why aren't they playing at Broncos Stadium? Broncos, used to do the 4th of July game, and the Outlaws would play out there. And that was great because it was one game. You'd go out there, you'd get completely screwed by the refs, and then you'd sit down there and you have a beer and you soak your sorrows on the grass while you watch fireworks. And there was like 35,000 people there.
Awesome atmosphere.
They're not going to do that, obviously, because the old owners are still the Broncos owners, the Outlaws owners. But also, if you have a weekend of games, that's going to be a real empty stadium. And it's not because PLL isn't good. It's just a massive stadium. And you're not going to get people, because I think Denver people are way more about home team. Right. They will go out for an Outlaws game, but I don't think they're going to go just watch lacrosse as much. I think Peter Barton Stadium, we played in Dick's Sporting Goods Park for the World Games in 2014. That was electric. But Peter Barton Stadium is a phenomenal place for lacrosse. The stands get packed, and then there's people standing forever all around the field. It feels like you're playing in a cage. It feels like you're playing a sick game in a cage.
We used to play there at Notre Dame. We used to play there at Notre Dame every year. It's freaking amazing, dude.
It's amazing. And actually, we had a MLL semifinal game there in 2014 that was electric. It was unbelievable atmosphere. So right. I'm all for it. Now, picking that Friday night game. I mean, this isn't easy, but I'm going to go with the Redwoods. I feel like they're a more complete team. I feel like the Cannons are in a situation right now where they're looking at the standings. There might be one, all it takes is one, but there might be one or two guys on that roster that are like, maybe don't die for that extra ball. Right. Maybe you're a step slow on the second slide. And the Redwoods aren't, because the Redwoods have been in this position so many times. And they're one win turns into two, and next thing you know, we're talking about the Redwoods all over again. So I think they're a little bit better at a lot of positions. And I also think that they can contain Lyle a little bit more. I think they're going to put Epple on him, and Epple's going to, you're not going to back Epple down. Epple leads the league by 1 million in caused turnovers this year. So yeah, I'm going to take the Redwoods.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Cannons, dude. I just think it has to happen at some point this year. They're going to get a dub. I think they put it together this week. Like I said, I know I cut Lyle in that 3, but he's still going to do what he does. And I think that he's going to have some support from some other guys. So I got the Cannons.
Before I make my pick, I just, I didn't give you two enough shine. Probably it was something subconscious that I went 1-3 last week. Greg went 4-0, and Scotty went 3-1 to put us all neck and neck for the cumulative records. But
Scotty actually went 4-0.
Oh, excuse me, my mistake. Scotty went 4-0.
You're thinking about this coming weekend.
Yes, there you go. And with that, I'm ready to turn my poor performance last week around and pick the Redwoods. I said this last week. I said it the week before. I will keep picking against the Cannons until they prove me otherwise. And they haven't yet, so I will continue to pick against them. I'm going Redwoods for all the reasons, you said, Greg. I think they'll be ready to play. Ryder had 5 goals last week. He looks like he's on fire right now. He's finding his groove. I'm all in on the Redwoods for this game.
All right.
Next one up, we have a big one. Chaos, who are hot as hell right now, versus the Chrome. My Chrome. What are we thinking?
What do you think, Scott?
I got the Chaos, man. I just think they're on a burner. I honestly think that they're going to get this thing rolling. They like being in this position. This is a battle for me of like 2 tough teams, right? They're very tough. I think both of their coaching styles is tough. I still got the Chaos, man. I think I just trust Blaze, man. I really do. I just trust them to get going and kind of be that foundation behind them. And obviously their offense, man. Their offense, Dane coming off that, Josh coming in there. They're starting to click. And when they click, it's kind of dangerous stuff. So I got the Chaos.
This is tough because I feel like the Chrome defense is very, very good.
Yeah, they are. And Manly's playing unbelievable this year.
Dude, Manly is playing like a 25-year-old, right? Yeah. He is. That whole defense is really impressive. I feel like, just to touch on what I said earlier, if the Chaos face-off unit is allowed to do what it just did, they're going to get a decent amount of wins. But here's the X factor, is if the Chrome are pumping them on the face-off stripe, I feel like CJ Costabile and Jack Rowlett can actually win a couple draws for them, because Connor's one weakness is that he turns the ball over after he wins a face-off. He's not as good as most of the face-off guys with his stick. Oh, this is tough, man. God, this is so hard because I want to go Chaos so bad. But I know when I say it, the Chrome are just going to play a lights out defense somehow.
Say it.
I'm scared. Dude, I'm scared. Sibes, you go first.
You know my answer.
I just wanted to see. I wanted to see.
Chrome, jump on the train. Come on now.
What do you mean jump on the train? All right. God, I hate. Okay, I'm going to go Chrome. I'm going Chrome.
All right.
Welcome to the bandwagon.
All right, going Chrome.
Well, I think this is actually going to be one of the more fun games to watch.
No. A great game.
No, I'm going Chaos. I said it out loud. I didn't like it. I'm going Chaos. I said it out loud. I don't like it. I'm going Chaos.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm excited for this one. I think that's going to be a really fun one to watch. I'm definitely going to tune in. The next game on Saturday, we have Water Dogs versus Atlas. 2 teams red hot right now. Obviously, Atlas are a little bit higher in the standings. This one is going to be another good game. I'll start it off with Greg.
Water Dogs, Atlas. I'm gonna. It's not that hard for me, actually. I think the Atlas, if the Whip Snakes are 1, I think the Atlas are 1A, and I think they're gonna get a decent amount of faceoffs. I feel like Concannon is just playing at a high level right now.
Yep.
Nothing against the Water Dogs. I just think that there's just a better overall team right now. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Atlas.
I'm gonna have to agree. Right. I think the Atlas they're just hitting stride, dude. I think that's the Atlas and the Whip Snakes right now for the 2 best teams in the league. And I just think the Atlas are kind of like maturing and flourishing right in front of our eyes, man. I honestly think they're a team to beat, and people are actually starting to fear them. So yeah, I got the Atlas. I mean, they got 4 goals out of Dox Aiken, dude. Like, he's not even their like main.
He's a beast. He's such a beast.
He's a beast, dude. But like, he's not even their main threat. Like, they're getting goals from other places. So it's like, I just think it's the Atlas.
I hear both of you, but I think I'm going to go Water Dogs for a couple reasons. One, I think a Water Dogs win here just muddles up the whole playoff situation a little bit more.
Yeah,
it evens everything out a little bit, and I think that's what's so great about being a fan of the PLL as a whole. The chaos of anybody can beat anybody on any given day. Besides the Whip Snakes, obviously. But I think the Water Dogs, we touched upon them in our breakdown from last week. I think their midfield unit is stacked. Sauer's legitimate beast. Like, he is finding his own right now, and he's finding his pro game. So I think it's going to be a tight one. But what's his name in the cage is finding his groove. He's a couple games in, Ward. So I'm going with the Water Dogs here.
All right.
You two versus me. We'll see who comes out. But last game of the
Okay, last time I'm changing it. Going Chrome. All right, go ahead. I'm officially going Chrome.
Mark that down.
wait,
It's official.
That's
Okay.
final.
The bet is in. The bet is in.
That's right.
flip flopping twice, officially locking in the Chrome. It's in writing now. Can't delete it anymore.
Nope.
Last game of the weekend, the heavyweight fight of the weekend, Archers versus Whip Snakes. You know, two teams that have just legitimate firepower everywhere. Big prove it game for the Archers, like we mentioned, and the Whip Snakes just going to keep doing the Whip Snakes. What are you guys feeling for this one?
I got the Archers.
Wow.
Like it.
I like the Archers. I think this is a matchup that they don't fear the Whip Snakes. You know, I just don't think they actually fear them. I think they know they know that defense very well. Both the attack unit with Marcus and Manny know that defensive unit from the beginning of this league. Those two units have been together, right? So they're playing against each other and they know each other very well. I just think it's a good matchup for the Archers. I think Tommy goes off.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite of Sibes when it comes to how you pick games against the Cannons. Until proven otherwise, I kind of going to go with the Whip Snakes. And the biggest reason is the goaltending. I think, Gitz was lit up last week. Who's, to say that he might get back into it this week? But Bernlohr is playing.
Yeah.
He's playing he's playing unbelievable. And the other part of this is, like I said about the Whip Snakes, they are confident on attack. And at some point with the Whips, that you can just give the ball to one of those 3 or 4 or 5 guys.
Zed, Rambo,
right? Yeah. And someone is going to take over. You can't blanket all of them. And the Archers have a decent defense. They have great
big,
shorties.
physical. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know if they have the ability to hang with this Whip Snakes team, especially if they don't get, 50% of the face-off. So I'm going to go with the Whips.
I'm going with the Whips too. I'm agreeing with you, Greg. We mentioned it. The Archers haven't beat a team over 500 yet. I don't think it starts now. Whips just going to keep doing whips, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
We'll see.
That rounds out our picks. Let us know. Tweet at us who you agree with, who you don't. I know one of our producers, Noah, bets against me every week. I think he's about even money now. So let's hope he keeps losing money and I keep picking the right winners. But that's our episode, fellas. Make sure you subscribe on Apple and on Spotify. If you want to watch this, subscribe to TorchPro's YouTube channel. Fellas, another great week. Love doing this with you. I'm about to go chew the fuck out of IKEA right now because I didn't deliver my couch today. So I'm in for another hour on the phone at least with this fucking customer service.
Enjoy that, brother.
Fellas,
Yeah,
this was
awesome.
good shit. Good shit.
All right, boys. See you later. To the moon.
Thank you.